the topic of this workshop is called the first requirement. Now, I have to tell y'all that I actually give credit and thanks to Bill W. and the first 100 people who put together the textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous. Personally, I believe that they put together one of the greatest literary masterpieces of the 20th century. And it requires a whole lot of study. You know, when I come into the program, I find out that the more I'm in here, the more study that I have to do.
That's right.
You know, and when I first came in, I was going to big book studies and 12 and 12 studies. I went to a big book study through the 164 pages twice with Al. The Al, y'all Al I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, the one with all them years, the postman. I know y'all know him. He was leading the meeting, and I was chairing the meeting. I went through the book twice, the whole 160. You know, it takes a long time to get through the book study. And I would never share until he told me, you share next. I was listening to him. And he's not the only one I done went through it with. I done been through the big book study at least 3 times with Vince. Y'all remember Vince?
Yeah, we know.
Everybody knows Vince. And about 2-3 times with Dave. About twice with Tariq. And what I found out, because I was taking notes as I was learning, that none of them ever looked up the word study. The word study means the application of the mental faculties towards the acquisition of knowledge. So that's what I'm actually doing, right? So I'm trying to grow in understanding and effectiveness so I could better help a newcomer. That's the whole purpose of it. You know, so I could better help a newcomer. So now that I done got that out the way, I'm going to get into the meat of what this topic really is. The first requirement. And then I want to just mention what a requirement is. I brought my notes so I come prepared. Y'all understand what I'm saying? And oh yeah, this is a workshop. If I ask you a question, answer me. Y'all got that?
Okay.
If I ask y'all a question, don't look at me like I'm stupid. You understand what I'm saying? I want to know I'm around people just like me. Y'all, that's all right with y'all?
Yes.
All right. Requirement is a thing that is needed or wanted, a thing that is compulsory, a necessary condition, a necessity or an essential, a prerequisite, something needed in order for something else to be. Now, when I'm drinking, when I'm out there, before I come up here, I had also a requirement. The book tells us this. It says, when our drinking had become much worse, money was only an urgent requirement which could supply us with the next drink. And for them other people that had snuck up near the next hit,
yeah,
and the temporary comfort of oblivion it brought. Now that word requirement is mentioned in the big book, in the 12 and 12, 8 times. 6 times in different places it tells us this. It emphasizes it. 6 of those times is saying that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking.
Yes.
And in one of those times they tell us it's an honest desire to stop drinking. But 6 different times throughout both books, they tell us that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's 6 different times. But this requirement for this topic is called the first requirement. The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. That's the first requirement. However, that's not the only requirement. It's just the first requirement. The first requirement is we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. word require meant, generally I would use a blackboard or I'd have my own board, but I'd have to erase too many things up here, and third tradition don't want you erasing what they got written on those boards. And I know that, right? So I would generally have a board writing down some words, so I'm gonna ask y'all to bear with me. This word requirement comes from require. And that's mentioned in the big book. It tells us that to get over drinking on page 143 in the big book. And I know, because where I do big book studies not big book studies, but workshop, we provide big books and 12 and 12s for the people that's there so that they can follow along with the workshop. And I knew they wasn't going to have none here.
Yeah, let's get the big passing mine. Shit, we can go get mine. Who would like a book? Shit, go get your book, man. Get my book. Keep it up, I want that. Need a book, baby? You need a book, sir? You need a book, man? Oh, you got it on your phone? You need a book, man?
No, I got my phone. Thank you. And mine is 12 and 12.
You need 12 and 12? We need 12 and 12s too, brother?
Yeah.
May I have one, please?
This is so, and if you take notes and remember the pages that I'm mentioning, it'll better help the person to work with the newcomer, because these things answer all kinds of things that the newcomer come up in here with. In most cases, y'all know the newcomers come up in here with a whole bunch of problems, right? What this does is better equips us to be able to help that newcomer. This is the whole purpose for the workshop. It helps us to be better able to help the new person that's coming in here, because that's really our primary purpose.
Excuse me.
So this word require on 143 says to get over drinking will require a transformation of thought and attitude. That's another place that mentioned the word require. Page 143. To get over drinking will require a transformation of thought and attitude. Now in the 12 and 12, on page 61, they tell us this. No one ought to say the AA program requires no willpower. Here is one place you may require all you've got. That's dealing with step 5. Y'all familiar with step 5? I told y'all answer me if I ask you a question.
Yes, Kenneth.
All right. No one ought to say the AA program requires no willpower. Here is one place you may require all you've got. And I know we understand that. Who comes up in here wanting to do a 5th step? It's going to require all the will you got. Page 40 in the 12 and 12 says this. All of the 12 steps require sustained and personal exertion to conform to their principles, and so we trust to God's will. I'm going to repeat that. All the 12 steps require sustained and personal exertion to conform to their principles, and so we trust to God's will. I don't know about y'all, but if y'all anything like me, they used to tell me a long, long time ago, be ye not conformed, but be ye transformed. Y'all ever heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well in this place, they're telling me I got to conform in order to transform. Y'all hear me? So things get twisted, just shifted a bit. Right here, I'm going to have to conform and say, so we trust to God's will, as though by conforming to the principles, I automatically put myself in God's will. That's what they're telling me. See, I no longer have to wonder, oh Lord, what is thy will? What is thy will? Try to figure out what God's will is will give an angel a headache.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
That's
well,
right.
all I have to do is conform myself to the best of my ability to these 12 principles, and I'm automatically in God's will, and I don't even have to think about it with no thought or effort on my own. If I try to the best of my ability, that's what they're telling me. That's what they gave us. Now, on page 47, they tell us for step 4.
What book? 47.
I think it's the 12 and 12. It is the 12 and 12. They said, this required great willingness even to begin. Those of us who taken the 4th step can identify with that, right?
That's right.
Page 34 in the 12 and 12. Remember, the topic is the first requirement. That's not the only requirement. They got some other issues going on. It said, page 34 said, these conclusions, talking about step 1 and 2. Once I do step 1 and 2, according to Alcoholics Anonymous now, there is no writing. There is no action. These conclusions did not require action. They required only acceptance. They're saying right here that there ain't no writing for step 1 and 2.
Right. That's right.
I don't need a sponsor to give me a workbook with 100 questions. Asking me, when did you first start experiencing powerlessness? And then when I give him the worksheet back, he determines whether or not I've admitted I'm powerless. Like step 2. If I get a workbook for step 2, and I'm doing a workbook answering all them questions, well, when I finish with it, I'll go back to my sponsor and give him the workbook. He looks at it, and he decides whether or not I've come to believe. Does that make any sense to y'all?
No, none at all. No.
Well, that's what's been going on. That's why I'm thankful for Joe and Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm really thankful for Joe and Charlie, because Joe and Charlie brought this thing back to where it's supposed to be. We had them went way out there in the facility type doctrines. And Joe and Charlie brought it back to right where it's supposed to be at. That's one of the reasons why we have big book studies, because of Joe and Charlie. You know, so I'm thankful for that. Now, page 12 tells us that for required, what Bill says, to back that up, it was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than me. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. That's what Bill said. No writing he had to do. He said it was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than me. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. Now, they got this word requires. I'm saying this because the doctor told us that all we had to do was follow a few simple rules. Y'all ever heard that?
Yes.
Well, anybody in their right mind can think to themselves and say, yeah, well, if it's that simple, I can follow a few simple rules. But once I get in here, they come up with these requirements. They come up with suggestions. They come up with musts. They come up with demands. They come up with all of that. See, I have to come in here, and when I get in here, I discover the fatal nature of my situation. And then I'm not in here for a season. I'm not in here. I find out I'm supposed to never go out once I come in here.
That's right.
Y'all hook me up by telling me I just got to follow a few simple requirements.
That's right.
You know, but then, you know, I never looked up the word few. Never looked the word up few. He used F-E-W, them the simple words, you know. On page 72, it's for step 5, they said this requires action on our part, which when completed will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrong. So there's a whole bunch of requirements. Step 10, page 89. It says, it requires an admission and correction of errors now. That's when I'm continuing to take personal inventory, and when stuff come up, say, this requires, I'm learning how to correct my behavior, jolly on the spot. Whereas it took me a long, long time to get over a resentment before this. Y'all heard?
Yeah.
Page 74. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, we want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Page 94 in the big book, talking about the newcomer. When I'm talking to him about the program, he said he may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning. Just at the thought of it. He may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning, which requires discussion with other people.
That's right.
You know, because I come up here, I got so many skeletons in my closet, you know, and I got so many things going on with me that I don't want these dark secrets to ever see the light of day. And I most certainly ain't thinking about sharing them with nobody else.
That's right.
So he rebels at the thought of it. Page 150 in the traditions tell us that the very life of our fellowship requires the preservation of this principle. What principle? What's the fifth tradition say? What is it? Our primary purpose is to say, is that it? Each group had but one primary purpose. They said the very life of our fellowship requires the preservation of this principle. That's telling me that the 12 steps is more than just traditions. Just like the 12 steps are principles, the 12 traditions are also spiritual principles. That's what they're telling me right here. He said, the very life of our fellowship requires the preservation of this principle. They didn't say tradition, they said principle. Now, this word requirements, I think it comes about twice. This is what Bill said on page 13. Belief in the power of God, plus enough willingness, honesty, and humility to establish and maintain the new order of things were the essential requirements. That's what Bill said. Page 50, in We Agnostics, this is what they say. Here are thousands of men and women, worldly indeed. That means they ain't got no sense of spirituality whatsoever. They're worldly indeed. Y'all ever heard the expression, I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these people is in the world, and of the world, and all the world. They're worldly indeed. This is what they're saying. They say they flatly declare. They didn't just declare, they flatly declare. You know how a person said, he flat out said this? You know, tell me what you mean, flat out. They said, they flatly declare. And that word declare means I'm telling the news. Y'all ever heard this thing old saying about go tell it on the mountain?
Yeah.
Well, they flatly declaring. That word carry that kind of weight, right? That's the kind of weight he's talking about agnostics. They said that since they have come to believe in a power greater than themselves, to take a certain attitude toward that power, and to do certain simple things. 3 things. It wasn't just coming to believe, right? They said, since they have come to believe in the power greater than themselves, 2, to take a certain attitude toward that power, and 3, to do certain simple things. There has been a revolutionary change in their way of living and thinking.
Revolution.
You know, they told us, in order to be vital, faith, in order to be vital, must be accompanied by unselfish and constructive action. Didn't they tell us that? In order to be vital, faith must be accompanied by unselfish and constructive action. And it said this happened soon after they wholeheartedly met a few simple requirements. That's why I'm going at with requirements.
Yeah.
Now, if y'all got a 12-step thing on the board somewhere, y'all got a 12-step written on the wall?
Yeah, let's turn around.
Okay. This thing about faith, y'all ever heard a long time ago they told us that faith without works is dead?
Yes.
All right, they've been telling us that all our lives, right? And I'm one of them. I had much belief when I came up here. Matter of fact, I had read the Bible, the Holy Bible, twice before I even went to school. Literally, from Genesis to Revelation, before I even went to school. I taught my older brother his ABCs. I was very smart and flunked first grade. My purpose for this is saying about this faith without works is dead. This is what they gave us. Y'all see that third step up there?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
That's a faith step.
Yeah.
That's prayer. After that come action in 4.
That's right, that's right.
See the 7th step?
Yeah.
That's a faith step. That's prayer. After that come action in 8.
Yes.
See the 11th step? That's a faith step. That's prayer. Yeah. After that come action in 8. Alcoholics Anonymous taught us how to act our way into a new way of thinking.
That's
y'all
right,
hear what I'm saying?
that's right.
That's what they gave us. Even by the way the 12 steps is written, it's showing us that faith without works is dead.
That's right.
That's why they did a few simple things and came to believe and took a certain attitude toward the power. Y'all, that's what they explained. And the whole thing is all about this. Faith, to be sure, is vital, but without unselfish and constructive action, it's dead. That's what I came up here and found out about Alcoholics Anonymous. When my sponsor, because he was younger than me, started telling me about God in the 3rd step. Well, I had read scriptures all my life. I decided to tell him some things about God. And this is what he told me. This is something I will never forget. He said, Kenneth, you ain't got no motherfucking faith. All you have is a bunch of information without application. And I looked at it. I didn't like the way he said it. And I thought to myself, is this true? He said, yeah, Kenneth, you know a whole lot. But you're not applying any of it. So I learned how to dummy up and see what else he had to say. I accepted that, right?
Yeah.
So I learned how to dummy up. So I stopped reading this book in order to know this book and to quote this book. I started reading the textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous so I can learn how to apply in my life what I'm reading.
That's right.
Y'all hear what I'm saying? And that's when my life changed. I come to a lot of meetings where the so-called big book thumper is put down. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Yeah. They say they got a whole lot of people that can quote the book. Oh, they can quote the book very well. You know, a lot of them can't say so. You know, and they say that in front of the newcomers in open meetings. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's only half of the picture. If I make a statement like that, what I should do is say that they got a whole lot of other people who quote the book and do say so.
That's right.
Y'all hear what I'm saying?
That's right.
I got to give it both because that'll have the newcomer looking at the person who quoted the book and said, I don't want to hear that. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
So they got a whole lot of other people who can quote this book. I'm talking about almost verbatim sometimes. And these people stay sober and are happy, joyous, and free. Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let's look at this word here, because they said it's the first requirement. I'm presenting this not to show y'all what I know, because if you pay close attention, what I'm saying is coming from this book. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Except when I'm ad-libbing or something, or talking, you know, like I was just finished telling y'all about my early life and. Okay, but in majority of the cases, I'm going to be telling you what's coming from this book, and it's not to impress nobody with what I know. I give the credit to the first 100 men and women who put this book together. And the doctor said it like this. The doctor said it gave him a sense of real satisfaction when he was asked to contribute a few words on a subject which is already covered in masterly detail. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
The big book is actually covered and written in masterly detail. That's why these words coincide. That's why if you check the word they use, and reference the word and check it again, you ain't going to find no loophole in what they write. That's for the rationalizing alcoholic who's always coming in looking for a loophole. I found out later on that Bill said, when he wrote the 12 steps, he said, we have closed every avenue whereby a rationalizing alcoholic could find a loophole. Like he knew I was coming. Because that's exactly what I was trying to do. Find a loophole. Any loophole. You know, let me catch my sponsor looking up some woman's dress. You see what I'm saying? Any loophole. That's what I was looking for. So, you know, I'd have an excuse anyway. Because he was telling me about God. Let me finish this. I watched my sponsor like a hawk. And when I found out that he was human, it was too late. I was looking for any kind of way out. What's up, Cal?
Hi, baby.
All right. So now they talking about the first requirement, right? And the first requirement that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. All right. The first requirement to what? Of what? See, people quote the first requirement, but the first requirement concerning what exactly? It was the previous statement. What they said? They said, how do they put it? Being convinced. This is what they say. We were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood Him. Y'all remember that?
Yes.
Then they asked this double-barreled question. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? Understand what they're saying. Just what do we mean and what do we do? Faith must be accompanied by unselfish and constructive action. Isn't step 3 supposed to be the principle of faith? Isn't it?
Yes.
So they said, just what do we mean and what do we do? And to answer that question, the first requirement in understanding what they meant is that I be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Y'all hear that?
That's right.
And from then on, they're still answering that question. They are still answering that question. The first requirement for me to understand what's meant by what they said is that I be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Not an alcoholic life. Any life. They ain't talking about the alcoholic here. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
I be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. And they say on that basis, we're almost always in collision with something or somebody. Y'all hear that? When they use that word basis, they use the word basis and they use the word basically. Then they use the word, let's see, basis, basically, and they use based. In between those times, in between basis and based, they're going to use the word he, him, and himself 25 times. On page, y'all remember people used to say in the rooms, Bill used different words because he didn't like to repeat himself.
Yeah.
Y'all remember hearing that?
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest crocks of baloney I ever heard. Because on page 61, Bill used the word he 17 times. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Most people, he used the word he 17 times. And most people won't never look up the word he. Because when they say he, the average person thinks it's talking about a male. Am I right or wrong?
Right. Yes.
The average person thinks it's talking about a male. That word he, when you look it up in the dictionary and you break it down, what it's talking about is the selfish, self-centered individual. So when he used that word he is like this. He always trying to run the show. What is it based? Y'all hear that?
Yes.
He's talking about the selfish, self-centered individual. Any selfish, self-centered individual operate according to the same basis. Y'all heard me? But that word basis, basically, and base is a whole nother workshop. So I ain't going up to that. I'm gonna just say it. We talking about where we at right here. That's a whole nother workshop in itself. So why is it that he got to be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success? One of the reasons is because of the way the human being is constituted. The human being is full of pride. Not like y'all. Y'all don't have no pride, right or wrong? Answer me.
We do. I do.
That's what I'm talking about, Jan. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Most of us is composed of pride.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the reasons, right? You got to understand where this pride coming from. They said pride is a basic instinct, right? You got to understand how I got it. This pride, I'm going to tell y'all. I remember, well, I don't really remember. I just remember in my genes, all right? I'm going to say this again. I don't really remember, but I remember in my genes, all right? In my genes. Y'all got that? When my mom and dad was having relations, they didn't have me nowhere on their mind. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm talking about what the time that I was conceived. They didn't have me nowhere on their mind. They was having a good time. But when my dad deposited the sperm into my mother, inside the sperm, they had millions and millions and billions of other sperm cells like me racing toward that egg.
That's right.
And I am the one that won.
That's right.
Each person. So they're giving us the description of a self-centered individual. Why is he trying to do all of that? You can go even further back to how man was created. He a complex creature. He's trying to run the show, dominate everything. When God created man, he told man, he blessed him. That's what he said. Told him multiply. Then he said, I'm giving man dominion over everything in the earth. I want you to conquer it and subdue it. Bring everything up under your subjection. Y'all hear me? Mm-hmm. So man came here running stuff. Mm-hmm. His nature is to run stuff. Right. He rules, but sometimes he forget. Like that sperm, he forget who taught him which direction to swim in.
All right.
You see what I'm saying? He forgets. You know how some people say, you need to remember where you come from. You ever heard that? Yeah, you forgetting where you come. That go deep.
Deep.
Yeah, that go real deep.
Yes, sir.
See, we don't never see. We want to remember, and we want to remember God with sufficient force. We don't never want to forget. So no, God instilled these characteristics in man. But God also knew that man, and look at it again, if that's not proof enough, I'm going to tell you something else. He created man from dust. That's right? Right. Lowly beginnings. Inside this dust lies the seeds of industry.
Okay.
And industrialism in this dust. So man had the capacities to do a whole lot of things. You know, and by doing all of that, which God gave him this, he'll forget God. Because he ain't going to see no other God other than him.
That's right.
So God was smart enough. We're talking about the first requirement, right?
Yep.
God was smart enough and wise enough and merciful enough to know that man was going to forget.
Right.
So he gave him the first commandment.
Uh-oh.
I know y'all familiar with that. I watched a movie called The Ten Commandments. He said, I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's what he said, right? And thou shalt worship the Lord thy God with all thy mind, with all thy heart, and with all thy soul.
Okay. Yes.
That's what they told us, ain't it?
Yeah.
All right. So if God said that,
Okay.
if God said that thou shalt worship, that means that it's part of my nature to worship. And if I don't worship God, I will worship something else. And whatever I worship will kill my ass. Am I right or wrong? Whatever I worship other than God will bring me to a self-imposed crisis.
That's right. Am I right or wrong? Right.
Yeah. My nature is to worship. So if I'm not worshiping God, it's going to be a skirt. Or what's under the skirt. Or the money. Or the house. Or whatever. Any of y'all ever got a brand new car? Anybody ever bought a car that looked good? And then you see your friend see you, and he asks you, he say, is that you? I tell him, no, that's a car. This me standing here.
Talking.
Y'all ever been in that situation?
Yeah.
They done equated me and associated me with that.
Okay.
You know? So, he created the man to worship, right? And the man will worship. Because God said that. But if you don't worship God, you'll wind up worshiping the worst thing that can be worshipped, self.
Okay.
That's why we come to this self-imposed crisis. So, when he said that in that commandment, God knew that man was going to get to a point where he wasn't going to even accept the commandments. You hear him coming in the rooms. If you're really listening, they'll say, man, I wasn't worried about no 10 commandments and all that kind of stuff. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
So God knew man was going to get to a point in his greatness that he wasn't going to even accept the commandments. So he said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a program, and instead of giving man commandments, I'm going to give him suggestions. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I'm going to give him requirements. Y'all hear these requirements?
Yes.
You know, nowhere in this book is they giving us commandments, right? They give us suggestions, requirements, at least 57 musts. Right?
Yeah.
After we get in there.
Yeah.
And that's all for a reason. And they got a few simple rules, right?
That's right.
We get up in here, we learn we got rules, we got suggestions, we got musts, and we got requirements. And all of that's coming about because of our demands.
Right.
Y'all heard me? It's all coming about because of our demands. Our unreasonable demands. Our incessant demands. Our instinctive demands. And our unsatisfied demands. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
The book talks about all of them. It's because of those demands that I'm making. Right there on 61 to 62, 63. 61, 62. Them ways he's trying to run the show. They give you 17 times ways of that. And then on the next page, they give you 5 examples of what he is like. Y'all heard?
Yeah.
He is like the retired businessman. He is like and then he include the alcoholic.
Yeah.
He let you know when he include the alcoholic. And the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up.
Yeah.
Y'all heard that?
Yeah.
That's when he include the alcoholic. Other than that, he's talking about the selfish, self-centered individual, period. So, Let's get back to where we was at. This is what Bill said. On page 8. Bill said, it was a devastating blow to my pride. I, who had thought so well of myself, this Bill, and of my abilities, of my capacity to surmount obstacles, was cornered at last. That's what Bill's saying about his pride. But in AA, this is on page 47 in step 4. In AA, we slowly learned that something had to be done about our vengeful resentments, self-pity, and our unwarranted pride. Page 8 in the 12 and 12 tells us this. Anger, resentments, jealousy, envy, self-pity, hurt pride, all led to the bottle. And for the other people that had snuck up near, to the pipe. 12 and 12, page 49. But the testimony.
Page what? Page
40.
Page 49, 12 and 12. See, these are things that help us to better deal with the newcomer. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
newcomer's going to be coming with all kinds of issues. And this book done covered it all.
Covered it all.
You know, it done covered it all. The newcomer won't be able to come to us with nothing that we ain't ready for.
Yes.
Page 49 says, but the testimony of AAs who have really tried a moral inventory, this is our testimony. Those of us who have really tried an inventory, is that pride of this sort turn out to be boogeymen and nothing else.
That's right.
Y'all heard that? Did y'all hear what I just read?
Yes.
12 and 12, page 49. Both his pride and his fear beat him back every time he tries to look within himself. Big book, page 75. This is when we're getting ready to do that fifth step. We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character and every dark cranny of the past. Y'all hear that word, cranny?
Yes.
Every dark cranny of the past. Y'all know why I use the word cranny?
No.
Y'all know what a cranny is?
No.
A cranny is a slit, a crack, a crevice that's dark.
I got you.
A lot of my secrets, my dark secrets,
That's what it is.
are associated with the darkness of this cranny. So we're going to bring some light on it. We're going to illuminate every dark cranny and twist the character that went with it in the past. So that's one of the reasons why I don't want nobody to know about my inventory. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
Dr. Bob, this is what he says. If you think you are an atheist, an agnostic, or skeptic, or have any other form of intellectual pride which keeps you from accepting what is in this book, I feel sorry for you. If you have any form of intellectual pride which keeps you from accepting what is in his book, Dr. Bob said, I feel sorry for you. That's what he said. In most cases, it is my intellectual pride that kept me from accepting what is in this book. And I'm glad they came up. Because the doctor, in his opinion, I want to bring this out. The doctor, in his opinion, he only asks one question. The doctor, in both letters, he's telling us things. The doctor only asks one question. There's only one question mark in the whole doctor's opinion. Y'all know what that question mark is? He asks the question, what is the solution? That's the only question the doctor asks in the whole doctor's opinion. What is the solution? And he gives the answer twice. And in both times he gives the answer, he don't refer to himself as having it.
All right. Say it again.
One of the solutions, the answers was a man became sold on the ideas in this book.
Yeah.
The other answer to the solution was he accepted the plan outlined in his book, totally disassociated from the doctor himself. The doctor had already told us what with our ultra knowledge, high sophisticated way of doing things, we perhaps ain't well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie way outside our synthetic knowledge. That's what he told us. That's what he said. I don't know if y'all ever mess with synthetic stuff. You know, ain't nothing like the real deal. You know, they got synthetic women out there they're selling right now.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's right. They had to shut it
Yeah,
down.
they're doing all that.
Yeah.
You know, they had a whole bunch of synthetic women.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, and guys paying, tricking with them.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Going
sir.
to these places of business and tricking with these synthetic women.
That's right. Saw it on the news.
Yeah. I think somebody made a record a long time ago. Ain't nothing like the real thing,
All
baby.
right.
Nothing like the real thing. Yeah.
Like the real thing.
Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
All right. So, now, 12 and 12, page 48 says, to avoid falling into confusion over the names these defects should be called, let's take a universally recognized list as major human failings.
Yep.
The 7 deadly sins.
Uh-oh.
Pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth.
Yes.
And then they tell us, it is not by accident that pride heads the procession. We talked about pride, didn't we?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And how man was created, right?
All right.
So it's not by accident that pride heads the procession.
Okay.
You know, when you looking, I mean, let me point something out to you. Let me show you how great you really are. See, this is one of the reasons why we need a power greater than us. Because man is a great somebody. If you ever look and you look at the downtown area, you ever been in a place where you can see the whole downtown?
Yeah.
Or you ever, and then you see a plane flying over it? From your point of view, you can see over the building,
Okay.
right? And over the plane. But the plane can't see over you. And the building can't see over you. I don't care how tall it is. You can stand from a distance and you can see over that building. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
So that's where we exercise our greatness at. And by me looking, because everything I see in a building form is something man put up there.
Yeah.
Right or wrong? It's something that was conceived in man's mind. That's the reason why I can see over it. See, man ain't going to see nothing greater than himself until he come in Alcoholics Anonymous. And they going to tell him, you going to find you a power or die. That's what they tell us.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
Now, you going to find a power even if it's the goddamn group. If you can't see God as a higher power, you're going to find a power even if it's the group is your power, right?
Right.
One thing I never did go with when people went saying about, I'm going to loan you my conception of God until you get your own. I'm going to loan you my God until you can get your own. I never did go for that. You know why? Because if you can loan me your God, you can take him back.
That's right. That's right.
First there.
That's a sneaky way of trying to throw your ideas of God on me.
All right.
The book says I'm going to have to find my own conception.
Yeah.
No matter how inadequate it is,
All
it's
right.
sufficient of me to make a beginning. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
I had one guy I was working with. The guy tells me, Kenneth, I don't believe in God. What I believe in, they got 3 different type angels that do certain. I said, well, that's what we talking about. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Whatever it is you believe in, it's sufficient of you to make a beginning. I don't have to, all I have to do is give you these principles. these steps. And these steps and these principles will walk you into whatever God you believe in.
Yeah.
That's why they call them principles. They're laws and rules, and they will work if you work them. They're guaranteed to work if you. And my thinking ain't got nothing to do with it.
Okay.
They'll tell me, well, I think it's step 10, and this has happened automatically, with no thought or effort on our own. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. That's what they told us. So all I have to do is give the newcomer these principles. He don't have to understand it in order for it to work.
That's right.
I don't have to try to bring him to my interpretation of step 1 and give him 1,000 things he got to understand. Bill said, nothing more of me was required to make my beginning but a willingness to believe in a power greater than me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Ain't no working, no step working for no 1 and 2.
There you go, there
What
you
the
go.
book say? As soon as a man can say he believes, not right.
Yeah.
Ain't no damn rightness for step 2.
That's right.
Say as soon as a man can say he believes, we emphatically assure him he's on his way.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
what
sir.
the book say. And at the same time, if we can emphatically assure him he's on his way, he can't get no further until that happens.
Till it happens.
That's right.
Until he come to believe or be willing to believe, he can't go no further in the steps. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
When I came in here, the group was a power greater than me. I quit praying. When I was out there, I was doing nothing but praying. God, if you get me out of this situation, I swear I ain't gonna do it. I was doing a whole lot of praying. But when I came up here, I saw y'all had something that I didn't have. But God didn't favor y'all no more than he favored me. And I knew that. So what the hell it is y'all got? And what did y'all do? And most of y'all got different religions from me. No. I'm going to find out what y'all got. You know? So when I got in trouble, I called my sponsor. I called people in my support group. Why am I feeling like this? I used the group as a higher power. And when I start getting through the step work and the prayers start coming up, I start utilizing those prayers. Y'all heard what I'm saying?
I hear you.
You know, that's what happened. I start utilizing that. And then they told me, said, we on, remember that word basis?
Yep.
Well, you say on that basis, right? This basis of operation, my method of operation, from where I'm really operating from. See, because all you see is the outer circumstances. But what's really driving this is way beyond your vision.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So this is the basis from which I'm operating on, causing all this confusion. All you see is the confusion.
Yeah.
But with the basis of it, where it's coming from, you ain't looking at that. And that's what they told us. Selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our trouble. You can see the branches of the tree. The branches of trouble, the leaves of trouble, the barks of trouble. But you don't see it coming from the root. And it takes work to get to the root. Y'all hear me? You try to get to the roots of a tree without some work, it'll take some work to get there. Sometimes you're going to need a whole crew.
That's right. Whole crew.
To get to the root. Because this way is all coming from the root. This is the basis. So, when they told me on that basis, I'm always in collision with something or somebody, right? So when I get to, I done step 4, and I'm right at that fears list in step 4, they're going to tell me, perhaps there is a better way. Why they say there's a better way? Because in the 3rd step prayer, I ask God, relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will, right? So when I get to the part of the fears in the 4th step, they're going to say, for we are now on a different basis. Right or wrong? The basis of trusting and relying on God. Right? That's where I'm moving at. From my basis of operation, where it's dark at, and where all of these confused, conflicting, low-down, nasty, ungodlike ideas is coming from, to a point where I done brought some illumination into it. Now I'm going to start operating on a different basis. This is the solution that the steps give us. And it happens automatically. I don't have to intellectualize it to anybody. All I got to do is give them the suggestion in doing the step, just do it. And the book will tell you when it's time for you to understand something. When you get to the 10th step, they're going to tell you, how did they put it? They said, now it's time we grow in understanding and effectiveness, something like that. Say we reached the point where now we're going to grow in understanding and effectiveness. The textbook tells you when you got to understand some things. People will argue this. They got people who argue, well, I have to make sure the newcomer understand the complexities of the beginnings of the process, and he got to understand Bill's story, and he got to fuck all that. The book says they ain't had no motherfucking book when Bill and them took the steps.
That's right.
Y'all hear what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right.
Bill and them didn't have no damn book. They took the steps and they wrote and told us what they did.
Yeah.
And they said, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. That's what they told us.
Yeah.
So if I give it to them according to the book and stop trying to intellectualize shit, the newcomer can get it.
That's right.
I ain't gonna let him work me like that any goddamn way. You know, I'll know the willing from the unwilling.
Yes, sir.
You know,
yes, sir.
of course I'm gonna give him the doctor's opinion. Of course I'm gonna do that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not condemning anybody who actually doing what I'm talking about. These people who doing this are doing the best they can with what they have. So we appreciate them. I'm only talking about what this book's saying. Y'all heard what I'm saying? It's not to put anybody down. Do y'all understand that?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Yes,
All right.
sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Now they talking about the first requirement, right? Now let's look at what they said. Remember I told you these words interconnect? All these words interconnect? This is what they holler about first. This word first. Written so many times. I'm only going to mention a few. But it's written so many times in the book. It says on page 135, they tell us, how they put it? They say first things first.
Okay.
Y'all remember that?
Yes, sir.
They
Yes,
say
sir.
first things first. Page 563, our common welfare should come first. Y'all heard that? See how they interconnect these words? In page 9 in the 12 and 12 talk about switching from 2-stepping to 12-stepping and placing spiritual growth first.
What page?
Page 9 is mentioned that, you know, about switching from 2-stepping to 12-stepping and placing spiritual growth first. 12 and 12, page 24. Why all this insistence that every AA must hit bottom first? Y'all see that?
Page what?
Page 24. Why all this insistence that every AA must hit bottom first? 12 and 12, page 30. They showed us that humility and intellect can be compatible, provided we place humility first. Humility and intellect can be compatible. Y'all hear people saying, "Oh, you too smart for your own good." Y'all hear that?
Yeah.
You too intellectual, or whatever. Okay, if I'm highly intellectual like what I was when I came in here, let me tell y'all how highly intellectual I was. I'm coming out this Christmas Eve 2004. I pick up a desire chip. Because I went to the meeting because they told me they had free food down the street. That's how I got to the meeting.
Okay.
I wasn't going no meeting. But while I was in that meeting Christmas Eve, I heard everybody sharing. And I said to myself, Kenneth, you're home now. You're home now. That's the way I felt. And that feeling ain't never left. But I went to pick up a desire chip. And before I can get back to my seat, I'm going back to my seat. A dude named Tariq grabbed me by my hand and brought me a person I had never seen. Patrick. Brought me to Patrick and he said, this your sponsor.
That's how they used to do.
That's how I got a sponsor.
Yeah.
And before that, you couldn't have gave me no sponsors. But my situation was so messed up. I said, all right. And I took Patrick as a sponsor. And he took me through the steps, and I recovered. The next day, or the next 2 days, the next 2 or 3 days, or it was the next week, within the next week or the next 2 days, I'm coming to a meeting, and Tariq is in the meeting. After I go outside, I got this white woman on my arm. All right? Her. I'm not saying white, but at that time, Caucasian. You know, that's who was on my arm. And I'm saying I generally don't say white, because to be honest with y'all, what color is this?
White.
That means there ain't no such fucking thing. If you see a white person run, there ain't no such thing as white. This is white. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
So you ain't gonna see no white person. Anyway, I had this woman on my arm, her.
All right.
And Tariq come out to meet. And you know what I tell Tariq? I say, yeah, Tariq, I know what I'm gonna do. He said, what? I'm gonna carry the message. Not just pick up a desire chip. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
It's okay.
I told him, I'm gonna carry the message. You know what he asked me? He said, Kenneth, you ever work a 12-step? I said, no. He said, you ain't got no fucking message to carry. That's what he told me. But by me having the woman on my arm, it affected my pride and my ego. Y'all see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I said to myself, I didn't tell him nothing. I said to myself, I'm going to fix it with this motherfucker. Never tell me that shit again. And from that day to this day, he has never told me that again. From that. When I came up here, like y'all was hollering about I'm in it to win it. I mean, that's the way they used to say in the street, right? I'm in it to win it. Y'all ever heard that?
Yeah.
Either I'm all the way in something or I'm all the way out. That's me. When I was out there, I was all the way out.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I didn't believe in is playing with God.
That's right. That's right.
God said long time ago, be ye hot motherfucker or be ye cold. y'all know what I'm saying? One of the two.
That's right.
He said, you be lukewarm, I'll spit your ass out. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
So I knew better than to be, I knew better than that. I knew God had more respect for me out there than come up in your half step. I knew that.
That's right. That's
You see what I'm saying? He got more. That's what he telling me. Be hot or be cold.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, either your ass is or your ass ain't. You know, and at least I'm true to myself.
That's right.
Whatever it is.
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna come up here and be my mama used to call people who was sometime this way and sometime that way. My mama used to say, Kenneth, I don't mess with her. She two-faced it.
That's right.
Y'all hear what I'm saying? That's what mama used to say.
Yeah.
You know, if my mama liked you, she liked you. If she didn't, you knew about it. And you better not fuck with her. Go get her. She punched the shit out. That's the way my mama was. My mama told me, if somebody hit me, she ain't never tell me go run tell nobody. Hit that motherfucker back. That's what she told me. Y'all understand that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, today things are different. You know, but that ain't the way I came up. Anyway, let me get back on topic. You know, they say on page 21 in the 12 and 12, we know that little good can come to any alcoholic who joins AA unless he has first accepted his devastating weakness and all its consequences. Y'all heard that?
Yes.
Page 159 in 12 and 12. Everybody in you should hear this. AA saved my life, and it comes first. Y'all heard? Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life, and it comes first.
Yes.
I'm going to repeat that. Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life, and it comes first. And since I've been sober, it's been coming first. And I hope to God I never put it second. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
It was Alcoholics Anonymous that saved my life, and I put it first. I start scheduling my activities behind the meetings I was making when I first got sober. That's what I started doing. I'm not saying everybody should do that, but they said, my life. That's what it says. All right. The principle on page 22. This is in the 12 and 12. This is what it says. The principle that I hope I'm not offending anybody.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I don't mean to come here and be vulgar. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Sometimes I can get carried away.
Carry on, bro. Carry on.
The principle that we shall find no enduring strength until we first admit complete defeat is the main taproot from which our whole society has sprung in flower. The first step, we talking about first, right? They're talking about the first requirement, showing you how these words interlock. That's what I'm doing. The first step is the only step that must be practiced 100%.
All right.
Right or wrong?
Right.
That's right.
At certain times, the alcoholic, he has no effective mental defense against what drink?
The first.
The first drink. We learn that if we were, pages 47, 12 and 12, we learn that if we were seriously disturbed, our first need was to quiet that disturbance.
Yes, indeed.
Y'all heard me?
Yes, Lord.
Regardless of who or what we thought causes it. The first need was to quiet that disturbance. No, see, alcoholics don't handle anger well.
No.
Y'all understand that?
Yes.
Alcoholics don't handle anger well. You know, it might be left to as they say, the dubious luxury of so-called normal people. But for us, we don't handle that well.
Yeah.
I know I don't.
I don't need.
And this word first, page 62. First of all, we had to quit playing God.
Quit playing, bro.
That's what they say. And on page 111 in the big book, the first principle of success. Pay attention to this. The first principle of success is that you should never be angry. Some people say, I didn't even know that was in the big book.
That's what it says.
But that's what it tells you. Page 30 says, this is the first step in recovery. And it's mentioned in a few other places. But just to show you, we're talking about the first requirement. The first requirement that we be convinced, right? They got this word convinced also in some areas. Convinced. They tell us on page 40. It talks about a man that's absolutely convinced that he had to stop drinking. He was very smart, intelligent on other concerns. Yet he was flat on his back, nevertheless. Even though he was convinced that he had to stop drinking, he still was flat on his back, nevertheless. That's the stepless person. Y'all heard me?
What page is this?
Page 40. In the forward to the second edition, page 16, said Bill was convinced of the need for moral inventory, defects, restitution, and helping others, even though he disagreed with the Oxford Group tenets. Even though Bill disagreed with the religious aspect of the Oxford Group, he came up with the 12 steps. Took him 30 minutes to do it. When Bill wrote the 12 steps, it took him 30 minutes to come up with it. And he had a hell of a time convincing the rest of the group. But he still was convinced of moral inventory and the need for restitution and helping others. He was convinced of that. Page 133. We are convinced that a spiritual mode of living is the most powerful health restorative.
Yeah.
Y'all heard that? We convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Page 96. Working with others. With somebody who just can't get it. If you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced that he cannot recover on his own.
Yeah.
Y'all heard me?
Yeah.
Page 64. Being convinced that self manifested in various ways which when it defeated us, we considered its common manifestation. Page 30. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Not was in the grip of a progressive illness. We are in the grip of a progressive illness. No matter how sober I am, no matter how long I've been sober, I'm in the grip of a progressive illness. If I slip up and drink up, or drink up and slip up, or use and whatever, if I do that, wherever I was when I stopped, it's going to be, as far as I'm concerned, 14 years worse than it was when I started. I could pick up where I left off, but it's going to be worse. I'm in the grip of a progressive illness. Y'all heard me? I'm going to need a progressive solution for my progressive illness over any considerable period. We get worse, never better. Y'all know the word considerable means long time? That's what the word considerable means. Long time. So the longer I'm in the grip, that's why I'm doing daily, on a daily basis, these things, because I'm in the grip of a progressive illness. I'm not cured. Y'all heard me? No, I'm not cured. So this word requirement came from require. They use the word require. Now the first requirement, and the word first itself, only suggests a beginning. Am I right or wrong? First implies a beginning. First and foremost in rank and time. That word beginning in the big book is mentioned, the big book and the 12 and 12 is mentioned 45 times. I'm not going to read it all. Y'all hear me? The word begin is mentioned 33 times in both books. The word begun is mentioned 14 times. The word convince is mentioned 19 times. The word first is mentioned 203 times in both books. So it's a whole lot of studying that I have to do. You hear what I'm saying? All right. I'm going to close this up with the meat of what we're talking about. They said, just what do we mean by that and just what do we do? You hear me? This is what I call the just what. The just what question. Because that's what they call it. Just what do we mean by that and just what do we do? They asked that question 4 different times in both books. In the big book they say just what do we mean and just what do we do. And it's referring to how I'm turning my will and life over to the care of God. In the 12 and 12, on page 34, this is what they say. Therefore, our problem becomes just how and by what specific means shall we be able to let him in? They're asking the same question in a different way. But they want to get the specifics and exactly. That's what they're talking about. On page 35, they say this in the 12 and 12. No matter how one wishes to try, exactly how can he turn his own will and life over to the care of whatever God he thinks there is? On page 39 in the 12 and 12, they say, so how exactly can the willing person continue to turn his will and his life over to the higher power? They asked that 4 different times. So they come into a specific means of exactly how I can turn my will and my life over to the care of this power. And they give us the answer. They said nothing short of continuous exertion on the 12 steps as a way of life can bring about the much required results. And so we trust to God's will. Nothing short of that. That's where the remaining steps come in. It's showing me exactly how I can do this in order to produce the much desired result. I'm going to share this, y'all, and I'm going to have to shut it down. The word result comes about twice in how it works. The word result appears twice in how it works. And it's not accidental. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas, but the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Y'all remember that?
Yes.
Nil don't just mean zero. When you trace back the root of the meaning of nil, coming from nihilism, it means an absolute negation of all moral principles. Meaning whatever I do is right, long as I do it. That means I'm on the flip side of spirituality. Any of y'all ever played spades? Y'all ever got set? Well, the negative numbers go back as far as the positive numbers go forward, right?
Yes.
That's the first result. Because I'm trying to hold on to my old ideas. The second time result come about is this. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry what message?
This message.
This message, the alcoholic, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And thank you all for letting me grow with you. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.